Hello and welcome to the first course in our GitHub series. In this course, we'll be introducing you to the platform, helping you create your first repository, and showing you the most common commands required in order to work with it. GitHub is a cloud platform that leverages a version control system called Git. So before we can continue, you'll need to make sure that Git is installed. Instructions on how to do this can be found in the course description. And if you haven't already done so, you should also create an account on github.com. Once registered, log into your account and you should see something like this. The first thing we're going to do is create a new repository. A repository or repo is essentially a project and is where we'll store all of the files required for that particular project. To create a new repo, we'll click on the New button. Here we can provide a name and description for the project. The name provided can't contain spaces, so any that you add will be converted to a hyphen once the repository is created. In this course, we're going to create a list of recipes, so we'll call it My Recipes. Next, we choose whether or not we want the solution to be public or private. Now, public repo is accessible to everyone, even if they don't have a GitHub account. We'll also tick the box to include a readme.md, which is a file used to document what this repo is for. The rest of the options we'll leave as they are and finish up by clicking on the Create Repository button. This brings us to the repo page, which shows us the structure of the repo, the contents of the README, and links to various other areas which we'll cover throughout the series. The next thing we'll do is clone the repo on our local machine so that we can begin working on our project. The process of cloning ensures that our local repo is correctly linked to GitHub. To create the clone, we'll first need to obtain the URL of the repo, which can be done by clicking on the Code button. The pop-up gives us various options, including a way to download the repo as a zip file or open it in GitHub Desktop, but these are both topics for another day. What we're interested in is the URL, so let's click the button to copy it to the clipboard. On your local machine, ensure that you have a folder ready for your project. In our example, we'll be adding the repo to our development folder. Using a terminal or command prompt application, we'll browse to this directory. At this point, it's worth verifying that we can use Git. To do this, we can simply type Git and hit return. If we see something like this, then we know it's installed correctly and accessible. So let's take a look at our first git command and clone the repo onto our local machine. For the URL, we'll use the value that we copied to the clipboard earlier. If you've created a private repository, then you may be prompted for a username and password at this point. Once the repo has been cloned, we'll navigate to the directory, and while we're at it, let's open the solution in our code editor of choice. Depending on the terminal application you're using, you may see the word main next to the directory name. This is the name of the branch which defaults to main in a new repository. We'll talk about this in more detail shortly. Before that though, it's time for you to create and clone your repo. You can stay up to date with all of our content by subscribing to our YouTube channel or following us on social media. If you'd like to see more from this course, then head over to websy.academy, where you'll find our full set of training courses complete with hands-on activities and much more.